goddamn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
All right, everybody, welcome to Beering Ain't Easy with Adam and Drew, episode number 33.
Just another amazing night in this slice of heaven south of Houston, Texas.
The full slice of heaven.
I know before we get going into beer, I got something that, like some disturbing news that I got. So you remember how I said I had a lawn service in high school? Very proud of that. And I thought me and my buddy had an unspoken pact that for the rest of our lives, we would not pay someone to mow our yard. We had this, it was like a blood pact that I was going to be 80-year-old with the weed eater out in the yard, right?
So he broke down?
So Tommy, the T in TD's lawn service, is now outsourcing his lawn care.
Ooh.
I'm devastated. Meredith swears that I'm just sitting here being stubborn on this shit, but I'm going to be that old dude with the weed eater. I'm in a boat, just riding against the waves of change.
So let me just ask you some tough questions here. So who removed your tree that died during the freeze?
I would not stoop down to use your guy, but I used someone else that drove by.
Yeah.
But that was not mowing the yard. That was pulling a tree out. Totally different ballgame.
So your pact was only specific
to the lawn.
The lawn. It didn't include the landscaping and the shrubbery.
Shrubberies are in a completely different class here. I demand a shrubbery.
Okay, so speaking of lawns, there is no greater compliment in life than when someone comes to your house and they compliment your lawn. And that happened this week.
That must have been a big day for you.
Oh, it was. It was. I feel like it's all come together. All my hard work and investments in my lawn have finally paid off. So I had I had an issue with my AC this week, and the AC guy was there, and he was like, "Wow, your lawn looks really good. What do you do?"
You know what the only thing better than someone complimenting you on your lawn?
Well, I'm not sure that you really know, because has anyone really complimented your lawn?
I did. Not this year, but last year I got some compliments. And so when you do it yourself, that recognition is so much sweeter. All right, man. So do you want to tell us what we're going to talk about today?
Today, we are going to talk about my recent San Antonio beer venture.
Adam's San Antonio adventure.
I guess I should include that it was the first weekend getaway my wife and I have had since COVID.
Nice. And so it's funny, you went on this getaway and you went to a lot of breweries, right? And it looked like an awesome trip.
It was an awesome trip. So it's always a little sketchy when I'm balancing the dynamics of my desire to go to every single brewery in the world with the need to be a husband and not be a complete drunk asshole.
So what I want to know is Jody doesn't like beer, right?
Didn't like beer prior to this trip.
Okay. So was this a Mother's Day gift to her that you just took her to a bunch of breweries when she doesn't like beer?
So I think basically what it came down to is she was so desperate to do anything away from the kids that it didn't really matter what we did as long as we were out and about seeing the city away from the kids. And I mean, breweries have a pretty fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I strategically picked out breweries that had seltzers and served wine just in case.
So you kind of just gently guided her so that you could hit all these breweries.
Yeah. And so a lot of them were oh, well, this brewery has this really good barbecue.
Yeah.
And so why don't we just get lunch there?
Yeah, the combo.
The combo.
That's awesome. So we cracked our first beer because we couldn't wait on it. And honestly, like this has been a pretty fantastic beer. So I think we need to start talking about them.
It has been a very good beer.
And I want you to be able to tell us about this brewery, but I'll introduce the first one we're drinking. It's from Black Laboratory Brewing, and it's the Dinwiddie Common, a California Common Ale coming in at 5.6% ABV. So I didn't actually go on this trip, and I needed something to talk about because I love to hear myself talk.
I think all the audience knows that by now.
That's why I started a podcast, really. I mean, I'm my biggest fan. So I looked up all these breweries so I would have something to talk about. And so what I found super interesting about Black Laboratory is this place was actually started by two legit scientists.
Really?
They have degrees in chemistry, biochemistry, and microbiology. I had to go to my notes on that one.
Interesting. Very interesting. It had like kind of like a nerdy vibe on the inside. Mm-hmm. So like very consistent with like its name in the background. So there was like some sciencey type of equipment on the inside. Then it had like a little like mini mall type of outdoor setup. So let's talk about this specific beer.
The one that I just drained.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was like, I have about a quarter of an ounce left. So just full transparency. Common ales. I'm a big fan of common ales. I haven't had that many because they're not
that common.
Despite their name, they're not that common. If any of the listeners haven't had it, it's kind of like a lighter brown ale.
I liked it a lot. I mean, very malty, but it's not so malty that it fills you up. It kind of leaves you at the end of the glass of like, oh, I need another one of these. It's kind of like, waiter, another round.
Oh, I know. I could definitely drink a 6-pack of this beer.
Very good. I enjoy it.
So what's your rating on this beer?
I enjoyed that beer. I'm going bold with a 4.0 on that Cali Common. It was good.
Yeah, I was teetering between a 3.75 and a 4, but I'm going a 4. Like it was a really good beer.
I've had some Cali Commons that are a little more bitter, and this one was not bitter. It was like the right amount of sweetness and maltiness that just was perfect, in my opinion.
Just the perfect balance.
Do you know this, like the story behind Cali Commons and why they're called California Commons?
I do not, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I will. So the way they manufacture this beer, it's
hold on. Before you start blabbing, hand me the next beer and I'll crack it.
Start cracking and pouring. This is actually a steam beer. And the way it's made is you're using lager yeast, but you're brewing it at a higher temperature. And so the reason this was important is that back in the day, when you didn't have refrigeration, you could make this at a higher temperature. But the reason why they can't call this beer steam is, have you ever heard of Anchor Steam?
Yep.
Out of San Francisco?
Oh, yeah.
They copyrighted the steam beer, so nobody can call the beer steam beer, even though that's the way it's made. And so it's kind of like champagne. You can't call it champagne if it's not from France. It's sparkling wine. And so they locked down the steam term.
That is interesting. All right. So next up, we have a beer from Roadmap Brewing. It's called Craven Cottage. It's an English pub ale coming in at 6.1% ABV.
I feel like the beer selection you chose, it's so random. It's like there's no IPAs on the table. It's all the styles of beer that you always wish there was more options of because they're harder to find. It's like you grabbed all the ones the brewers like making, but no one buys. But I'm glad you bought them.
I have no idea. I think that I was just pounding so many IPAs throughout the day that I was like, I don't really want to buy IPA. And so I bought like this malty stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good call.
So my initial assessment is that this pub ale is much darker than the common ale.
Yeah. What's interesting is these, pub ales, a lot of times they use, natural carbonation only. And so you can tell this is not a very foamy beer. It's pretty flat. It's got that pub feel to it.
Oh, it does. I kind of lump these two categories of beer like kind of similarly.
Yeah. This is the type of beer I need to pour here in the lab just so I have that bar smell all the time.
Pour one on the ground.
Yeah, just pour it out. So Roadmap Brewing, when I looked this one up, this is a family affair here at Roadmap. It's a husband, wife, and the other investors are their parents, of one of them. And I noticed that I have to bring this up because Adam and I were literally just talking about this before the podcast. One of their beers was called the Minivan Dad IPA, and I'm surprised you didn't buy it because you were literally just saying like 10 minutes ago that you regret not buying a minivan for your family.
I never said that.
That's Adam's style. He's a minivan dad.
I never said, I said that the thought crossed my mind, but I'm above that life. Unlike you, who is in the process of purchasing a minivan.
I haven't purchased anything.
I would talk about this brewery, but I don't remember much about it.
Was this one of the late night breweries?
Yeah.
It happens. So instead of the brewery, let's talk about San Antonio. Did you do any touristy stuff other than breweries while you were there?
So I'm not like super familiar with the state of Texas. So I've never actually been to hill country. The place we stayed at was a really nice resort. And it was like, I don't know if it was technically in San Antonio. It was in La Cantera. You ever been to that area?
I don't think so.
It's a super nice area. So it's like the very far north side of San Antonio, but it's right like by the hill country. So it was like really hilly and like really nice trees and really scenic, great golf course. Not that I played, but great golf course.
Yeah.
Super nice resort. So like we didn't do like any of like the river walk, like that type of San Antonio.
Alamo.
Yeah. Yeah. It was more of an adult relaxation trip.
No, I like it.
There was a little bit of relaxation going on.
Yeah, a little bit of liquid relaxation.
We find that like we're at the stage of life like where there was like a group of like, I don't know if they're college age kids or like maybe super young professionals, and like they were all like having so much fun, and it just like reminded us of our glory days. And so we were just people watching at first for a couple hours, just reminding ourselves how
it used to be,
how cool we used to be. This pre-kid life. And we actually like we partnered up with another couple who was in like the same situation.
Yeah.
Like we were people watching right next to them people watching, and we were like, y'all are people watching, aren't you?
Just some sad sons of bitches out there.
But like it made me feel a lot better. It made us feel a lot better about ourselves because we're like not the only people living this desperation life. So we do that. They have the pool bar and the waitress bringing us drinks, and so we're getting a good little buzz. And then there's like this big corporate party, and so then that's like the next thing we become envious of. Like this oil company is having like a corporate retreat, and like they're just like going crazy, like shots like crazy and all that. And so eventually we become part of that group.
You worked your way in?
We worked our way in and started having fireball shots in the pool.
Then you were back in that life.
Yeah, I pretty much was officially living that life at that point.
It takes a little while to remember how to do it when you're away from your kids. You're like, what do I do with extra hands and like extra time?
You take fireball shots. That's all what you do. That's what you do with those extra hands.
So San Antonio, I went quite a few times when I was younger, but it was all the touristy stuff like the Riverwalk, the Alamo, SeaWorld, Fiesta, Texas. I have gone recently, the hill country is beautiful. The Frio is not far away from San Antonio, and that is just an amazing time out there. But I am really interested to check out San Antonio now as an adult and see all the good stuff, because I just think of the touristy stuff. Yeah. And honestly, when I envision you on this trip, did you ever watch Wee Herman as a kid?
I did.
So he had the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure where he was searching for his bike and he thought it was in the basement of the Alamo. So all I envisioned with you in San Antonio was you trying to find your bike in the Alamo as Adam's Big Adventure. You know what's funny with Wee Herman is like, he was like on top of the world, and then he had like the public exposure at a movie theater, and then you dropped off the map. And it was like, if you want to just completely fall off the map, you just pull it out in a movie theater.
Pull it out. Rest in peace, Pee Wee. All right. So what are you thinking about this beer?
It's good. It's a lot thicker and more syrupy than the last beer. The last one was just like super easy drinker. And so even though this was only 1% more ABV, I'm drinking it a lot slower.
Yeah, it feels a lot. It feels more stale.
Yeah, like the carbonation isn't there. I feel like sometimes English pub ales, not anything against, Roadmap, but it's really more the style. It's almost like, sweaty gym socks a little bit when you're drinking it,
You say that, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's a good sweaty gym sock.
Yeah.
I don't like it as much as the last one, but it's the style of beer. It tastes exactly what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I went first last time, so I'm going to do the gentlemanly thing and ask you, what is your rating, Adam?
I'm going to 3.5.
That's a pretty fair rating, but I'm actually going to go down to 3.25. It's just, this isn't my jam, the pub ales. So
yeah.
So back to the topic of Jody not liking beer and you forcing her to go all these breweries. I feel like this is the perfect time to bring up a story about Jody getting a request to sponsor beer on her Instagram page.
That was the ultimate slap in the face to everything we have worked so hard for.
So Adam's wife has got a really awesome Instagram page and Instagram following. She's got thousands of followers. Hey, Jody Collins, right? So if you want to check her out, she knows how to do social media a lot better than we do.
Yeah.
We're pretenders. But she has been given offers to promote things on her page before, and she was given one from Tavour. Is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, it is. And they offered to ship her a variety pack of craft beer for her to promote on her page.
And what did she say?
She politely declined, despite my greatest attempts to convince her otherwise. And I even tried to convince her to get it and just post stories of me drinking it. And I also tried to get her to tell them about us and have them push it our way. And she's like, I'm not really interested in promoting alcohol on my page.
Oof.
I know.
Man, missed opportunity.
It really...
We could have been the people in the background where she takes, like we've talked about on Instagram, she just does the cute pic with the beer and she just hands it to us and we're in the back just hammering. Just hammered drunk in the back.
Going to Hammertown. It was our chance to go to Hammertown.
So Tavour, if you're listening... We're willing to promote. We'll take one for the team.
We're open and we're accepting. But there is a silver lining out of this because I was wondering if people are so desperate to promote beer just on their own behalf is I wasn't even sure if breweries gave away beer to people on Instagram. And so we have found out that they are giving away beer. What we haven't found out is why they're offering to give it to Jody instead of us.
It may have something to do with her following size. We'll get there one day.
Someday.
So for those of you that don't actually follow us on social media, you're not getting the full Beering Ain't Easy experience because I don't know what I like doing more, the podcast or making memes.
Our meme preference is a perfect description of our personality types.
Yeah.
Drew likes these big, elaborate, well thought through, complex memes. And I just like a one word and a funny picture.
Caveman memes.
Caveman memes.
Yeah.
Is what they're called.
I think that's appropriate. I think, are we ready to crack the last
I think
beer?
we're ready.
I'm super excited about this last one. Mainly because where it's from.
So this beer is from Weathered Souls Brewing Company out of San Antonio, Texas.
That's implied by the episode title.
So this beer is Roundabout Midnight Porter, coming in at 7.4% ABV. This was a very fun brewery to go to, but it was busy. Like, we went on, I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was like one of those situations where you really had to like plan your drinking, because like you couldn't finish your beer and then go get another beer. Like you had to drink half of your beer and then go get in line to get another beer.
That doesn't surprise me, because when I knew nothing about the San Antonio beer scene, right? Like the beers you get are the ones we get in HEB, which is like Alamo or Freetail. Those are the ones that I've seen. But I feel like Weathered Souls is really what put San Antonio on the map for me. And it all started with Black is Beautiful and Marcus Baskerville, and which we talked about in one of our previous episodes, started that whole chain of breweries making the same recipe.
That really took them off.
It really did. And they're sitting at almost 1,200 different breweries that have participated in this. And so they've gotten so much positive media attention, and it just made me want to go check out the San Antonio beer scene, to be honest.
It was a good beer scene. There's no doubt about that. There was good. There was good.
Very elaborately spoken, eloquently spoken.
There was good.
There was good.
So the first brewery that we actually went to was Dos Sirenos, and that was an interesting brewery. And I ended up talking to the owner for a little while, telling her about the podcast, and she gave us a tour of like the brewery setup and all that. She basically mapped out like how to go to like 4 breweries up to the way to the resort that we were staying at.
Man, I love the smell and taste of this porter. It's just like, porters are just one of those underrated beers out there.
I know. I never really get them. I'll never really get a porter over a stout.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I've actually had a couple porters sitting in my fridge for like almost a year, because I'm always choosing the stouts over the porter. But every time I crack open a porter, I'm like, man, I should do this more often.
Yeah. All right. So what are you thinking about this beer?
I really enjoying the flavors on this. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it. I get a little bit of dark chocolate, a little bit of caramel. You know, back to that Thanksgiving episode, I could eat some food with this thing.
Well, I was reading about it, and they say it is the perfect beer to pair with food. I read pizza, but I don't know that pizza is the perfect pair for this beer. Like when I eat pizza, I kind of want like a lighter beer.
I think I could do a hamburger with this, though, like something real like savory and hearty.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, like I think it has an excellent, rich, dark, roasty coffee. Extra roasty. A little lighter mouthfeel.
How are you feeling about this one? What is your Untapped rating?
I like it. I'm going a 4.0.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah, I was going to go a 3.75 on this one. This finishes our trio of unique beers. You know, we had the Pub Ale, the Porter, and a Cali Common, a.k.a. Steam Beer. It was a good lineup today. Good choices. San Antonio's bringing it.
Bringing it home. Well, I think everyone can say they have benefited from my big San Antonio adventure.
Minivan Dad over here. Searching for that bike in the Alamo.
See y'all next time.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our Untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.